Welcome back, boys and girls, to yet another episode of Watch Dogs Legion. So recently, if you guys didn't know, I attended a Ubisoft event at which I was able to sit down with Watch Dogs Legion and Assassin's Creed Valhalla for about 3 hours. And I'm sure some of you have seen some of the videos I've posted of both of those games, so today I decided to give you guys my brutally honest impressions of Watch Dogs Legion. There's kind of quite a few things I wanted to talk about and just kind of give you guys an idea of what I thought about the game, what the game is like, so hopefully that will give you a better understanding of what to expect when the game comes out. I think at the end of October, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think it's October 29th the game is coming out. So yeah, if you guys end up enjoying the video, leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. But anyway, let's just jump straight into this, Jimmy. So this recent Ubisoft event was actually the second time I had the chance to play Watch Dogs Legion, the first time being at Gamescom of 2019, where basically I sat down for about 30 minutes with one of the game's developers and he kind of walked me through everything, explained the vision of the game, and showed me some of the new mechanics and kind of new features that they were going for. The big one obviously being playing as anybody in the game. If you see somebody out in the open world, you can recruit them, you can have them join DedSec, and you can have them permanently die, which personally I was very excited for. So obviously my big takeaway from the Gamescom demo was kind of just like, you know, it's pretty much the same game as Watch Dogs 2, just a whole new different setting, and you've got this kind of gimmick of a mechanic where you can play as anyone. You know, on paper it sounds fantastic, but what I played was just kind of like, yeah, I think this might be a little bit too ambitious for you guys. I mean, I'm sure you've got a lot of talented developers, but pulling off a system where you can play as literally anyone just sounded crazy to me. But after playing the recent demo, where I had about 3 hours to play Watch Dogs Legion, I was blown away. They are actually pulling off their vision, which I can't just fathom at this point. The fact that they have pulled off the ability to play as anyone. Obviously, I played 3 hours of a work-in-progress demo, so things are subject to change, and obviously the more I play the game, the more I can kind of see the flaws and whatnot. But my big takeaway from it was, they're actually doing it, and it's working so well. I don't think even once I have come across a character that had the exact same set of skills as somebody else, or where the voices would start repeating, or where basically the character looked identical to somebody that I have seen already, or the names would repeat themselves and whatnot. The longer I play the game, the more chances I kind of get to see that sort of stuff. But with my 3 hours, I haven't seen any of it, and I was just kind of blown away that they are managing to pull off something like this in a AAA game. Like, honestly, props to Ubisoft for actually making it work. So let's start with the good to begin with. The big thing for me is the world. It's the same size as San Francisco from Watch Dogs 2, which I was kind of surprised about. I didn't know the map size stayed the same, but obviously this time around the whole thing is a city, and it's extremely detailed. It genuinely felt like it was alive with NPCs entering and leaving apartments, houses, buildings and whatnot. It just kind of felt like a lived-in city, which I really liked. Despite the fact it's a massive city, there was still plenty of unique locations for you to explore and get lost in, and there's a lot of verticality in the game. The mission locations are super well done. I just really dig the setting and the overall map design. Ubisoft, without a doubt, can make such immersive worlds. Have it be the Ghost Recon series, you've got the Assassin's Creed games, and now Watch Dogs kind of brings that Ubisoft open world to this universe, and they have nailed it. Honestly, it's one of the best looking cities I think I have ever experienced in any game ever. Obviously, Cyberpunk can put all that to shame, but we're not going to talk about that, okay? As it stands, Watch Dogs Legion I think is the best city I have ever experienced in any video game, period. It's madness. Ladies and gentlemen, we gotta talk about the graphics, because the graphics are on a whole new level. From some of the previous gameplay videos, some of the original gameplay we have seen for the game, it kind of looked average. It just looked like every other modern title. It didn't look, you know, bad or anything. It just kind of looked alright. It looked fitting for a modern title, but the graphics weren't really impressive. But having the chance to actually play the game for 3 hours, and keep in mind this is still work in progress, some things might change and might even get better, the game just looked spectacular. The lighting, the reflections, my goodness, the RTX technology is actually doing wonders in this game. There's so many different reflective surfaces that you guys might have noticed from the gameplay. Anything from the cars, from windows, from panels, mirrors, everything. There was just an overwhelming amount of reflective surfaces that just elevated the game to a whole new level. The game looks great. It genuinely looks like a next-gen game. And keep in mind, this is still coming out for current-gen consoles. This is not a next-gen game, so I can't wait to see what Ubisoft is gonna do for the next generation, you know, when they finally start developing games for the next-gen platforms. I think we're gonna see some spectacular games from Ubisoft, because they know how to make a world immersive and how to make their open worlds look very good, and Watch Dogs is no exception. Like I said, the detail that you see all around London is just on a whole new level, and you can really get immersed in the experience. There's plenty of NPCs, plenty of traffic, plenty of things just to kind of draw your attention. Yeah, they have nailed the graphics. I really like them. It's not the best graphics you guys have ever seen your entire life, but for what it is, and for the scope and ambition of the game, it's bloody impressive. With the world and graphics out of the way, we gotta talk about the gameplay, boys, because obviously that is the most important aspect of the game. And my big takeaway from it, I want more. The game is actually super fun to play. I absolutely love the way you can approach all of the different missions in this game. You know, the ability to play as anyone is not just a gimmick. It actually plays such a big impact on the way you approach many different missions in this game. I can think of 4 or 5 different ways I can approach one objective in this game. I remember basically playing as one of the construction workers and completely skipping an entire mission by just flying to my objective. Obviously, I could have done that mission properly by just going in, you know, either going for stealth or going guns blazing, going for hacking. There's just so many different ways you can approach things. It boggles my mind. Like, I genuinely don't know how they've managed to pull it off, but it's very impressive. The best feeling I kind of got from it was the Hitman games. You know how in the Hitman games you can kind of disguise yourself as somebody, as one of the workers once you take them down? You kind of have the same sensation when you're playing Watch Dogs Legion, which is not a bad thing. I really like the Hitman games, so having that in Watch Dogs is great. Like I said earlier, I actually hate stealth. In most games, I prefer to go guns blazing, but in this game, it felt right, the stealth. I don't know why. It was kind of like my default option. Yep, let's not get detected. Let's just try to do this mission properly without going guns blazing. Obviously, if you go guns blazing, I don't think you're gonna get penalized for that. I think you'll be able to do just fine with the amount of finishing moves, because the combat in this game is actually really fun and satisfying. I like the fact whenever you're engaging in melee combat, pretty much none of the enemies are gonna whip out any guns and start shooting you. They'll start fighting you until they realize that they're losing the battle. That's when you will see other enemies start taking out their pistols and start shooting at you, which I think is a very cool mechanic, because obviously they just don't want to go guns blazing if you don't want to do it as the player, so you're not forced into, you know, gun combat if you don't have to, which is super fun. Like I said, stealth was the way to go for me. I absolutely love that. Gunfights, I haven't experienced too many gunfights in this game, but that's just because I was focusing on stealth. But whenever I was shooting in this game, it felt solid, you know, it felt like a third-person shooter. It wasn't anything special, it just felt right, and that's what I liked about it. The driving, a lot of people have asked me about it. It feels solid, honestly. It's not groundbreaking or anything, it just works. It feels satisfying enough, and it gets you from point A to point B. So, you know, I've got very little complaints about the driving in this game. Now let's talk about some of the bad aspects of Watch Dogs Legion. Now a lot of it just comes down to things that were in previous games that aren't here anymore, or things that I'm just kind of worried about, because there was hardly anything in this game that just kind of made me go, ooh, yikes, this is gonna be a disaster when the game launches. And I do have to say, there was very little bugs and glitches in this. It was kind of insane. It felt like a finished product, which is mad, considering that they still have so much time to polish up the game and, you know, make sure that it's absolutely perfect. One thing that had me slightly disappointed is that hacking is less prominent in some aspects of the game. You can't hack things like traffic lights nor blow up steam pipes like you were able to do in the original Watch Dogs game, which is slightly disappointing. I'm not gonna lie, there was nothing more satisfying than seeing a cop car getting blown up by the steam pipes in the original Watch Dogs game. Just seeing the cinematic shot of the car going up in smoke, that was just fantastic, and unfortunately in Watch Dogs Legion we're not really gonna have that. A lot of the kind of on-foot hacking is still there. What I mean by that, you can still hack the cameras, you can still hack a bunch of like terminal, you can zap enemies, set up traps, you know, attract them to different locations and whatnot. But when you're in a vehicle, there isn't a lot of hacking going on there, which I suppose is gonna make police chases slightly less interesting and more boring. And I liked those, you know, in the previous Watch Dogs games. They were very satisfying. The only thing I kind of saw is that you can raise up some barriers and whatnot to stop the police cars in their tracks. But apart from that, you can't cause any massive explosions or cause a citywide blackout, which was obviously in the previous Watch Dogs games. So that's kind of missing here, which is a little bit disappointing, especially that the game is about hacking. Maybe some of that stuff is in the game, but I haven't had the chance to experience it just yet, so we will have to wait and see. Obviously, the play as anyone feature is extremely ambitious, but I'm kind of worried how it's gonna look like after you play the game for, let's say, 20 to 30 hours. Are you gonna start hearing voices that basically sound identical to somebody that you already have as part of your team? Are you gonna see characters that basically repeat themselves, maybe with just different names and different abilities, but you know, the character model is gonna look identical to somebody that you already have as part of DedSec? That's kind of my worry of the play as anyone system. I have to report that after 3 hours with the game, I haven't seen any of that. I have not come across one voice that repeated itself. I have not come across a character that has repeated themselves as well. So I have to say, so far, I'm super impressed with it. But I feel like, and I think you guys can understand this, it's only a matter of time before you start noticing. Because it's pretty much impossible for Ubisoft to make every character truly unique. All they can really randomize is kind of the voices, the names, and the abilities. But surely, the characters themselves must start repeating, right? So that's kind of what I am curious to see when the game comes out, how that's going to look after you play the game for, like I said, 20, 30 plus hours. Are you going to see a lot of that, and is it going to break your immersion? Is it going to be an actual deal breaker for you? Or is it just going to be one of those games that's like, you know what? I actually don't mind it so much. So it's going to be interesting to see how that's going to turn out once the game is out. So we come to my biggest disappointment of Watch Dogs Legion, and that is the permadeath. It's not a big deal anymore, and I kind of, I'm very disappointed in that, to say the least. I was so excited when they revealed that permadeath was going to be part of the game, because I love games like XCOM, where you basically have your soldiers that you invest time into, you level them up, you customize, and you kind of get attached to them, you know? And every time you send them on a mission, there's a risk factor involved, which makes them more tense, and you want to do well to make sure that you don't lose your favorite operative. But in Watch Dogs Legion, it's off by default. You have to go into the menu to switch it back on, and there is also no character levels, which means that death pretty much means nothing, because there's plenty of people out there in the open world that you can recruit and replace that person. Every time somebody dies, it's not a big deal, because you didn't invest any time into that person. You know, you haven't upgraded them, you haven't leveled them up, you haven't really customized them. All you're losing, really, is the voice and appearance combination, because the skills can be found somewhere else in the open world. And there's plenty of characters for you that are highlighted with this green marker, which are kind of people of interest that you should recruit. And they have like special skills like the spy, the construction worker, Albion operatives, and whatnot. So there's going to be plenty of opportunities for you to replace the person you just lost. So the kind of permadeath aspect of the game is meaningless, which is so disappointing. I wanted them to invest more into it and make it a big part of the game, because right now, yeah, I didn't experience any permadeath in the game because I didn't know it was off by default. I thought it was still, you know, an integral part of the game. but apparently it's not from everything that I've heard, which is slightly disappointing. I hope that might change, or in the future we might get like a permadeath update, which is gonna, you know, refine the whole aspect of the game and add character levels back into the game. Who knows, maybe if you switch it on in the options, the character levels are gonna come back and it's gonna be a more difficult mode to play through. But as it stands right now, permadeath is kind of meaningless and it's very disappointing. Not gonna lie. Overall, I do have to say I am extremely excited for Watch Dogs Legion. It's gonna be a game that I sink a lot of hours into, and just reading your guys' comments and feedback, I think a lot of people are excited for this. I think a lot of the audience was slightly skeptical of how it's gonna work, how it's gonna look. The first gameplay demos were not very impressive, but now seeing, you know, a more finished product, a lot of people are changing their minds, and it's really showing with the comments I'm reading from some of you guys, my viewers. And honestly, I think Ubisoft is doing so well with this game. They are nailing so many aspects of it, and overall, it's gonna be such a great experience. So if you're a Watch Dogs fan, it's a great year to be alive, buddy. Because honestly, this game is going to be a ton of fun, and I can't wait to play it when it comes out in October. So I hope that kind of gave you a better idea of what the game is all about, what it's gonna be, kind of, you know, my first impressions and brutally honest opinion of what I think of Watch Dogs Legion. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like on it, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Bye.